Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into ArchiDiaries. Fellowships are a wonderful opportunity for young professionals to expand on their areas of interest and at the same time contribute positively towards the society. Doshi We Know Fellowship is meant to support young scholars and practitioners who wish to study a contemporary situation and involve themselves in ways of responding to its challenges, or carry out innovative experiments to research some aspect of the situation. A young person in an early stage of a career may reflect upon contextual situation, study existing ways of working upon it, learn from more experienced creative persons and experiment with innovative ideas and approaches in order to build up the capacity to respond to the challenges facing us. The Doshi We Know Fellowship will support scholars primarily in the field of architecture and the built environment, but can consider other fields of study that impinge upon this area. The fellowship will be awarded to those who have demonstrated their commitment to excellence through their work, either academically or in the field, and who propose a definite and creative manner of pursuing an interest in line with the above stated objectives of the sponsors. The fellowship sponsors are open to diverse ways in which the awardees may propose to use provisions of the fellowship. Applicants should indicate how they intend to use the fellowship for consideration by the judges. To talk about the fellowship more in detail, I'm really glad to share that today we have with us Professor Neelkanth Chhaya and also architect Bhairavi Dhoot. Both of them are the members of the committee of the Doshi We Know Fellowship. Professor Neelkanth Chhaya is an eminent academician and also practicing architect based in Ahmedabad. So let me start by asking a question to Professor Neelkanth Chhaya. Can you tell us a little bit about how the fellowship started and what the journey has been like so far?
Yes, thank you, Ayaz, for giving us this opportunity to talk to everyone about the Doshi We Know Fellowship. From on Doshi's 70th birthday in 97, those who had studied under him got together and invited him for a party at the School of Architecture in Ahmedabad. And we decided that we should collect some money to support good causes in education, which was Doshi's major area of interest, to in whatever way we could. So we started collecting money from that point on. Then after 70th birthday, we had the 80th birthday, then we had the 90th birthday, and hopefully we'll have the 100th birthday soon. But every year, the corpus which was collected increased, and we came to a point where we could afford to give a fellowship, because the idea was, and this was also Doshi's idea, that this should be something beyond what one could do in the normal circumstances of doing a project or of teaching somewhere. This should be something that gives someone the freedom to break the barriers, as it were. And so the fellowship was instituted. We discussed in detail what the fellowship should be like, and as a result, it was instituted. And we had selections based on applications that came in. So that is how it has happened.
Okay. So can you tell us about the some of the kind of work that has been done by the previous fellows in order to get an idea as to what kind of possibilities are there in with this fellowship?
Yeah, the possibilities are absolutely open. We look to the applicants to come up with ideas. So Kaushik Kumar came up with the idea that he would study the water structures in a place in Karnataka called Melukotte. And he, in fact, used the fellowship to systematically pursue this and came up with very, very interesting documentation. Not only that, he went forward and worked within the community to save some of these structures And in fact, the fellowship was one of the factors in his work. It supported him to carry out something that he wanted to do, which he thought was very valuable. The next fellowship was something to do with play areas in the city, in the waste spaces of the city. Unfortunately, the coronavirus affected that, and we will have to wait for a while for the work of that fellowship to be taken forward. However, the idea is very good, and the fellowship is supporting that.
So there is a range of scales at which one can intervene, which means that it's not necessarily that the architects who can participate in this fellowship. Is it that the fields, the professionals from the other fields like the interior designers or furniture designers, or even people from the fields of, let's say, arts and humanities, who have an interest in doing something valuable towards the built habitats, can they also apply for this fellowship?
Anyone can apply. Basically, you got to have a good idea. You got to be able to convince the committee that you will be able to carry out the work based on whatever you have done in the past. It need not be anything specifically connected to the new idea that you have promoted. But the idea is important. The disciplinary background is not something which we will consider as a bar to anyone. And for example, if we found somebody who is a wonderful carpenter, but has no academic qualifications, but has come with an idea, is perfectly fine for him to apply or her to apply. And in that sense, the fellowship is open to anyone who has an idea, but who needs financial support to explore that idea and come out with something which may be of interest to society as a whole.
Yeah, I think that clarifies a lot of aspects associated with this fellowship, and a lot of people have been asking the same question. So thank you for clarifying on that. So what is the duration? Is it duration of the fellowship, and what is expected at the end of the fellowship from the fellows?
Yeah, the duration is 1 year. So you propose a program of activity for 1 year,
Okay.
and it will depend on what the applicant proposes as to what is the actual work to be done. Some of them may have a physical result, some may have an research result, some may have exploration which is different from both of these types. For example, an art form. We are open to many different kinds of uh, things that you can bring out from the fellowship. It need not be something which is in the expected terms of a research document, for example, or product. Nothing of that sort is expected. If you do, very good. If not, also we are open to that. It's the idea and its impact, possible impact, that the committee will base itself on.
Yeah. And what's the process like? I mean, do they collaborate with a mentor, and are there discussions with them on one-on-one level? How does this is carried out, the fellowship?
It will vary from, again, it will vary from from applicant to applicant. But generally, we have thought that the applicant will have specific ideas about what to do and will also propose a possible program of action,
Yeah.
for which the applicant will also suggest this is the way in which I intend to use the money.
Yes.
The mentor we would help the applicant to find a mentor who is a leading thought person in that field. And this is something that we will do. If the applicant has someone in mind, we can consider, but it has to be somebody who has shown great deal of original work in the field in which the applicant is working. And then the manner in which the mentor and the applicant work together is something that they will work out jointly, depending on the time available with the mentor, depending on the kind of work that is to be done, etc. And then they will periodically give a report of what's happening.
Okay. And are there any, during the process, any sort of submissions or submitting of the reports or juries or reviews of the process or, things like that to sort of evaluate or something?
There isn't an evaluation, but we do appreciate applicants informing us from time to time of what they are doing, and then we can arrange a discussion which will help the applicant to expand or deepen their ideas. So the purpose of such presentations or reporting will be to improve the quality of thought that is available to the applicant, not to judge the applicant, not to evaluate. That is not the purpose. Once we select the applicant, we are convinced that that applicant will go ahead, and up to now our experience has been good in that regard.
And
But add to that, as what also happens, the mentor also is in touch with the committee. Also, even if the applicant is proceeding in a particular way, the mentor always gives the feedback, and there is always a connect between the three parties, so we know how the study is proceeding.
Yeah.
So that's about it. It's nothing formal submission is not required.
so the idea here is to basically help them in the process, and whatever feedback, if they need or any help extra they need, that can be arranged during the process to sort of improve
Yes.
on the work.
Yeah.
So far, both the applicants have managed pretty much with their own
Okay.
in their own way, method of working, and even in approaching, unless they need to approach a particular authority and they have reached out to us, we have helped them. Otherwise, they have independently done the study.
Oh,
So,
that's great. And in case, suppose if a fellow feels a necessity to extend it beyond a year, is there a scope for that in the fellowship?
Now that's a somewhat tricky question. If the applicant wishes to continue, and we hope that the applicants will wish to continue that line of inquiry and continue to work in that. The fellowship, however, every year would like to put up an exhibition of the work that was done by the fellow. And therefore, to some extent, there will be a need for a degree of completion which allows that to be presented to the public at large. Up to now, we have done it in the form of talks and publication and exhibitions, but hopefully in future, something by way of a publication should also come about. So this is something which, in such a case, the applicant will have to consider it as a kind of en route stopping point, and then continue their work, and we will be happy to see it sailing along. Though, of course, we will not be able to provide further money support.
I mean, it's okay to see the process through, even it's at the end of the year. And it's also a happy situation to see that we are supporting the first step towards whatever they want to achieve.
Yeah.
So another question that has been coming up is that we are increasingly getting in a time where the collaborations are becoming more and more important, you know. I mean, you talked about the craft. I mean, let's say somebody was a carpenter, but let's say there is a designer who wants to work with a particular kind of a craftsman, and they want to collaborate and come up with some innovation or a solution. So can there be more than one person applying for this fellowship?
Yes, this is the first time this question has come up.
Yeah.
But the original intent of the fellowship is to support individuals. And I think for the moment, we will still continue to think of it that way.
Okay.
The individual would be free to use that money to energize a collaborative activity.
Okay.
There is no bar to that. But we would like to support, because institutions or non-governmental organizations, for example, have a way of applying for funding from various sources, whereas individuals are often not supported to that extent. And therefore, the fellowship is meant for individuals.
Okay. And then they can utilize that amount to collaborate with the
Yeah,
people that they want to. If somebody wants to collaborate with a craftsman, then they could collaborate with that money and share that
yeah,
amount, and that's their sort of how you want to use their funds.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that is also a very important point that you clarified. Thank you for that. And now, the also other questions like, can the fellowship amount be used to set up their own foundations and NGOs or organizations, which sort of becomes a kind of a kickstart? I mean, this fellowship becomes a kind of a kickstart, in order to set up their own grassroots organization or something which they can carry on. So, can the fellowship money be used for that purpose?
No, the fellowship money is for the purpose of studying the project which they had proposed. If, as a result of beginning the work, they feel the need to start any kind of organization, they're free to do so. And I'm sure today's times, once this fellowship is obtained, you may be able to obtain other funding for starting any group or organization.
Yeah.
And the fellowship money is meant to support individual inquiry, individual exploration, and the development of a personal mode of thinking.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. And there are also questions like, I mean, somebody has a very utopian sort of ideas and concepts and something out of the box solutions, and if they want to carry that out, uh, are they welcome to apply for these fellowships?
We see no reason why that should be disallowed. In fact, any significant thought will begin by re-questioning all kinds of fundamentals. And therefore, that's why it's called breaking the barriers. And it may be utopian, it may be realistic. We are open to different kinds of suggestions or different kinds of areas of inquiry. And the applicants should feel absolutely free to submit applications of all kinds.
Okay, thank you. And what is going to be the selection process like in nutshell? So I guess the 14th is the deadline to submit your application. Then on, are there going to be interviews or something like that? What's going to be the selection process after that?
Yeah. When the applications are received, there is first of all a basic screening to make sure that the applications are made by individuals, say, for example, within the age group which the thing is meant for, and so on. After that, the applications are analyzed for the background of the person concerned and what kind of promise is shown by the person's work to date. Uh, we will look at then also analyze the kind of project or kind of question that is being asked. And so there will be extensive study of each application, and we will have a extended discussion amongst ourselves where we find that there are applicants whose projects look, several of them look very promising. Then we may have to conduct a one-to-one conversation,
Okay.
which may be done online, which may be done in person, but mostly online nowadays.
Yes.
And we will find out from them further from what they have written down in their application. This would be in case we feel that there are several applications which are of equal merit. And it becomes difficult to decide without further discussion. So we will do that if required. Otherwise, we will depend on the application concerned, and we will look at, we may ask opinions from experts in whatever fields about the applications received and see how they evaluate the application, whether they consider it significant and important, or whether they consider it something which is more run of the mill and therefore nothing significantly contributive. So if wherever needed, because we are all from the field of architecture by and large, but if we need advice on other fields, we will take it.
Okay. And are the other nationals than the Indians can apply for this fellowship?
There was a long discussion on that. And
Sorry, yes. We have decided at this point in stage it's only Indian nationals who will be allowed.
yeah. So Bhairavi, this is something which we have to say it as clearly as possible, so as to leave no ambiguity there.
Yeah,
It's right
only
now.
Indian nationals are to apply at this
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah. Because also our funds are not huge. We are working with crowdsourced funding. And therefore, we have to work within the limitations that we have. To some other people, this funding may not even look significant. But in any case, it is meant
We
for
would
Indian
also
nationals.
prefer if the study and the activity is limited to India.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because this is also, of course, Doshi's very strong desire that we should work on questions that are significant to India.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else that you would like to add, Professor Chhaya and Bhairavi, that you think that we have missed out upon? Please feel free to add. I think this is the time. Any important point that you think that we have missed in the conversation?
I think we have covered everything. The only thing I would say is don't be scared, just make the application.
We have missed one very important thing, and a lot of people have been asking since you mentioned about Professor Doshi, that will they get a chance to interact with Professor Doshi?
He was asking whether he will get a chance to interact with them. Given the circumstances of the virus spreading everywhere, obviously his meetings with people are under very careful guidelines, and whoever is selected will of course meet him, but we will follow all the distancing and other needs. One has to realize that he is 94 years old, and therefore we do not want to put him to any risk. But yes, you will get to meet him.
Thank you. I think that solves anxiety of many people who have been asking me this question. I shared this on social media and WhatsApp yesterday, and I've been getting a lot of questions from there. So I think by and large we have sort of covered almost all the important points related to the Fellowship. So just want to conclude here that 14th Feb is the deadline to apply for the fellowship 2022-23. You can visit the link in the description below and visit the Doshi We Know website, download the form and email the duly filled application form, and also the supporting document. Please make sure that they are not more than 10 MB in format, and there are no, I think, web links or web portfolios that we are entertaining. Please email whatever documents are necessary in PDF format and less than 10 MB. So I think that sort of summarizes it, and I hope that we have helped answer a lot of questions that have been coming up on the Doshi We Know platform and also on ArchiDiaries. So thank you so much, Professor Chhaya and Bhairavi, for giving this time and clarifying on this uh, Doshi We Know Fellowship 22-23.
Yes.
Thank you, Ayaz. Thank you,
Thank you so
Bhairavi.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.